Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Her Money and Investing Show with yours truly, Jessica Perrone, founder of Her Financial IQ, where we're making money and investing concepts fun and approachable. To catch up on past episodes of the show or to check out my course offerings, go to herfiniq.com. Now, here at Her Financial IQ, we have an amazingly supportive community of women. So as you come in, introduce yourself, and please feel free to ask questions during the broadcast. I do my best to weave in these questions as we're going through the conversations. And I also want to know how I'm doing. How do you like the show? How do you like how I am covering these topics? And what topics would you like to know more about in the future? Well, today's topic was supposed to be economics in the kitchen, but my very special guest, John Netto, had a family emergency and had to cancel at the last minute, but we will reschedule. So make sure that you are on our mailing list and follow us on social media at HerFinIQ to find out when we are rescheduling. Now, when I thought of this concept about economics in the kitchen, what came to mind and what I was trying to do was empower women to understand that economics isn't these great, big, complex ideas. Okay. And what I wanted to do was show women about how economics affects our everyday lives. And frequently, a lot of these economic concepts are concepts that we already are familiar with as the super consumers of the household. And what's more, that by allowing women to see how economics actually affects our daily lives, it gives us confidence as women to make more informed financial decisions. And when women understand that economics are not as complicated as they seem, then they can also realize that market trends influenced by economics are not intimidating. And thus, investing concepts become more manageable and approachable. Now, when I started thinking about today's show, I thought of when I started self-directed trading and investing way back in 2005. Yes, I opened my first Ameritrade account. I had finally paid off my credit cards. I had paid off my loans, student loans. I was debt-free and I finally had a surplus. I had a surplus of $5,000 and I said, I want to learn how to invest it. Hindsight is 2020, and I don't think robo-advisors were such a thing way back when. That probably would have been a lot smarter. But the journey that I embarked upon learning how to trade and invest has been pretty amazing, I have to admit. And if there was a robo-advisor, maybe I wouldn't have started on this journey. But when I look back, the biggest blocker to me about investing in the markets was what to invest in. For whatever reason, that was the hardest part for me. And I actually went over many years and started learning analysis, reading charts, whatnot. And I made a lot of mistakes and I lost some money and I made some money. But the biggest thing that I learned, the number one thing I learned from all of my trial, actually, there's two things I learned from all my trial and error is number one, I want to invest in names that I believe in. And number two, invest for the long term. So, where does this sort of invest in names you believe in have to do with women and economics in the kitchen? Where does this all have to come from? Where does this all come together? And there's two quotes that I want to bring in from GOATs, greatest of all time investors. And the first one is from Warren Buffett. And he says, never invest in a business you cannot understand. Okay. And when a lot of beginner women investors come to me, they'll have, obscure penny stock names in their portfolios. And I'll ask them, I'll say, do you know what these companies do? And frequently they say, no, it was just a tip from a friend. So understanding what you are investing in is such a large part of self-directed investing. Otherwise, it's like going to Vegas and just putting money on the number 9 on roulette because your friend told you to. Yes, that is sort of what that is like. However, Peter Lynch wrote a whole book based on a mantra. This is actually his book. Can you see this right here? It is One Up on Wall Street. So he wrote a whole book about the mantra that average investors can become experts in their own field and pick winning stocks as effectively as Wall Street professionals by doing just a little research. So, over time, what I have done is I have created my own list of companies that I believe in. Yes, I went from, going on stock tips and analysis and doing all sorts of, fun stuff that was, interesting and intriguing all at the same time, to saying, you know what, I have about 200 names, 200 companies that I believe in, and those are the 200 companies that I focus on. And these 200 companies are very similar to the focus lists that you will see with Wall Street traders. They have their own list of stocks that they focus on. And sometimes they rebalance and sometimes they change it, but they have a certain set of stocks that they are focusing on. And in my stocks classes, when I'm teaching women about, how to identify companies and stocks in their everyday lives that they believe in, quite frequently we start in, guess where? The kitchen. Yes, we start in the kitchen. And if you think about this, a stock is just a company, right? Represents a company that is publicly traded. And that company probably has a product that you may use, or a product that you're like, you know what, I don't like using that product, right? So you may not believe in it. Or they may have those products that you believe in may have suppliers. And so you can start thinking in the world in terms of your kitchen and the companies that create the products that you are using in the kitchen. But also, when we were talking about economics, there are the bases. I can't talk today. I'm having a hard time talking. There are just some basic principles that you can see on a daily basis just in your kitchen or even the grocery store. So, for example, it is spring season, right? And you'll notice that in the spring and in the summer, certain vegetables and certain fruit are a lot cheaper than in the winter, right? That's because the farmers are going to crop in the US. They're harvesting the strawberries, they're harvesting the berries, and they have a lot of supply, right? They have a lot of supply going to the grocery store. And therefore, right, the price of those strawberries and those blueberries are coming down. They're softening in the summer. But if you look for the same strawberries and blueberries in the middle of winter, guess what's going to happen? There's less supply, so the price will be more expensive. So these concepts of supply and demand, these economic concepts of supply and demand, when they are actually broken down and presented in such ways, they seem a lot more approachable. So going back to the troop from Chatham that I presented to a couple of weeks, it was really interesting because I said to them, I said, economics and financial terms are really just complicated words that explain things that you probably already know about. And I actually gave them the example of the word inflation. And I'm like, you know what? It's just a fancy word for things costing more. And I was like, and this is probably something that your moms know about when they are trying to budget and everything costs more. Yes, that is inflation. And again, as the super consumer, as the individual that budgets the most and spends the most in the household, yes, us women are keen to economics and also in trends when it comes to companies. So I'm keeping it super short today because I don't want to go too in depth without my guest, John Netto. But the purpose of today's show was to demonstrate that women have a unique advantage in understanding economics, and their purchasing power can shape market trends. And by understanding economic principles and taking control of their finances, women can make more informed decisions that benefit themselves and their families. Here at Her Financial IQ, we're encouraging women to take a more prominent role in their investment process and realize that it is not as intimidating as it may seem. So, as we wrap up today's show, I wanted to remember the words of financial journalist Jean Chatzky. She had said, "The more you learn, the more you earn, and the more self-sufficient you can be." By building our financial literacy and understanding economic concepts, we can take control of our finances and achieve greater financial independence as women. Remember, you are in your financial journey, and where you are is personal. And feeling overwhelmed about finances is a natural part of life. But breaking down your goals into manageable steps will help you succeed. You're already on the right track just by watching today's show. I'm thrilled at the community that we are building here at Her Financial IQ of women committed to financial health, growth, and freedom. Join us again in 2 weeks for our next episode's Bonds for Beginners with special guest Joanne Spears. And she is actually an amazing wealth manager. She is assistant vice president, senior financial advisor, senior portfolio advisor, retirement benefits consultant at Merrill Lynch Wealth Management. I'm so lucky to have her on the show. So make sure you guys all show up. And of course, if you want to take your money and investing journey outside the show, check out my personal finance and investing classes at Her Fin IQ. Sign up for our mailing list to stay informed about upcoming shows, interviews, panels, workshops, and announcements. And of course, make sure to follow me on all social media platforms at Her Fin IQ. In closing, I'm Jessica Perrone, founder of Her Financial IQ. You've been watching the Her Money and Investing Show. Together, we're learning to build wealth. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. Tune in for the rescheduled Economics in the Kitchen.